I recently spent 11 days sailing down under in a suite on board the Celebrity Edge, a billion-dollar cruise ship from Celebrity Cruises. However, there were some things about this ship that quite literally stunk. I'll tell you all about that and everything about the cruising experience on the ship in my full review of the Celebrity Edge. Hello everyone, my name is Zach. I am the Traveling Man, and if you know me, you know that I love Celebrity Cruises, and in particular, their Edge series of ships. And in this video, I'm going to review the Celebrity Edge. I was fortunate enough to be able to sail on her again. This is my second time on her, but this time I was sailing on her from Sydney, Australia, 11 nights up to the Great Barrier Reef. And what a perfect place to sail on an Edge series ship. I booked this cruise all the way back in, I think it was 2021. I booked it the same week that they announced that the Edge was going to be going to Australia, because I was like, what a perfect way to experience Australia, a new place to me, on board a Edge series ship. I was so excited to sit down there, and I know a lot of folks in Australia were excited too. I was able to meet a lot of those. Hello to everyone that I met on this cruise. I'll just say that up top because I met more people on this cruise than I ever have before. Thank you all so much for coming up to me and saying hello. Had a fantastic cruise. I was actually staying in an Aqua Sky Suite that I got on a move-up bid. So it was a really good time in the retreat. Got to dine at Luminae. Got to take advantage of the thermal suites and use my Aqua perks and go to Blue a time or two. So in this video, I'm going to tell you all about my cruising experience. And how I'm going to do that is through my 5 steps process. And STEPS is an acronym where the S stands for ship. We'll talk all about the Celebrity Edge, the smelly Celebrity Edge. The T stands for taste, where we'll talk about the food, and this is primarily going to be focused around Luminae because I was staying in the retreat, and Luminae is a restaurant exclusive to guests of the retreat. The retreat, if you're not familiar with Celebrity Cruises, is the suites on board Celebrity Cruises. So if you're staying in a suite, you get access to the retreat. It's kind of like the ship within a ship concept. You have a lounge, you have a sun deck, and you have a restaurant exclusive to the guests staying in the retreat. So we'll talk about the food. And then for the E, we're going to talk about the entertainment on board the ship. The P stands for ports, and we were in Australia, so a lot of cool clips to show you from Australia down under. And then the second S stands for service. We'll talk about service and the cruise. So lots to discuss, so we're going to jump right on in with the S, the first S for ship. Now I'm going to start with the bad, and there were a couple of bad things about this ship and about this cruise that was sort of impacted the experience a little bit. And the first of these being a water issue that we had. About midway through the cruise, it was a port day. I turned the shower on and noticed immediately that the water in the bottom of the shower, the water that was accumulating, was kind of a grayish brown. And I'm like, what is happening? So I grabbed my camera and took some shots of it to just show. It doesn't really come across well in video, but this water was gross, y'all. And it kind of had this little like shiny like detritus in the bottom. So I cut the water off. I called down to guest services and I'm like, hello, there's something wrong with my water. Is there a water issue that you're aware of on board the ship? And the guest service agent said, yes, there is a mainline water issue. It's affecting the entire ship right now. Now, mind you, this was about 9 o'clock in the morning. So, of course, my first question was, well, are you going to make an announcement? Because there are a lot of folks that are getting ready to go out for their day right now. There's a lot of folks drinking coffee that the cruise ship has made with this water, eating breakfast, food that has been prepared with this water. If it's a mainline issue, it's impacting the entire ship. I think you should make an announcement. And they said, no, sir, we don't make announcements. It's just the water. So we're not going to make an announcement about this. And sure enough, they didn't. I just went and grabbed a bottle of water. I had a bottle of water in my room. And I was like, I'm not drinking any coffee. I'm not eating any food. I'm just getting off this ship. And so I got off the ship, went about my day, came back on board later. And I don't know if they like knew that my room key was used to get in my room or what, but as soon as I entered my room, my phone rang. It was guest services, and they said, hey, is the problem fixed? And I said, well, let me go check. I went around the water. I said, it looks like it. And they said, well, we're going to send something to your room via your room steward just to say sorry about this issue that you experienced. I don't know, issues can happen on any ship. It was just very weird to be on this billion-dollar ship and to have dirty water, not to be able to trust the water. Then there was an issue with the smell. The ship literally stunk in many places, and I thought I was going crazy, and I verified this with a few other people that I had met and talked to on board the ship, and I was like, do y'all think this ship stinks? Literally stinks, because I have been smelling a smell. It smelled something like sewer. and also like rotten trash, like mixed together. Sometimes I would smell it in the guest hallways. Like I was on deck 10, and sometimes when I was walking from my room, which was in the back of the ship, to the front of the ship, I would get like just a hint of the odor. But I also smelled it a lot when I was up on the main pool deck. So I don't know what the smell was or where it came from, but it really stunk, and it was like, oh, this is like ruining the vibe, you know, the beautiful aesthetic of a Celebrity Edge ship. And I hope that it's something they can address and get fixed soon. In addition to that, the ship is certainly showing its age. Now, the Celebrity Edge is currently going on probably 5 or 6 years old, so it's getting up there, but there's definitely places where she needs some TLC. And I do know that they did send the ship to a short dry dock before they sent her down to Australia, but I hope that they give it a little bit more attention. So that was some of the bad. I'll talk about some of the good about the ship now. The ship is beautiful overall. If you've never sailed on a Celebrity Edge ship, you certainly must try it, because in my opinion, they are some of the best ships at sea. Or they are the best ships at sea. I'll say that. The Celebrity Edge series ships, you just can't beat them. If you like a more modern aesthetic, if you like a more relaxed cruise vibe, if you like a big pool, they have a huge pool. Pro tip, by the way, if you want to get in that pool and not during the day when everyone else is in there, go after like 6 p.m. in the evening when everyone else is getting ready for dinner. I would go out there and have like the whole pool to myself. I would have the whole retreat sun deck to myself, all the hot tubs. So pro tip for you. But the Celebrity Edge series ships are beautiful. Another good thing was the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi on the ship was exceptional. They are utilizing Starlink internet, but this was some of the fastest I've ever had at sea. I don't know if it's because of our position where we were there in Australia or what, but it was super fast internet. My room was also beautiful. Like I said, I used the Move Up program probably a couple of months before the cruise. I did my bid on Move Up and then was notified, I think about 3 weeks before the cruise, that my bid for an Aqua Sky Suite was accepted. So I went from a solo infinite veranda stateroom, a room for just one person, into an Aqua Sky Suite. And I'd already booked the cruise pretty cheap, because like I said, I booked it in 2021, back when cruises were still quite affordable and when Celebrity wasn't ripping off their solo cruisers. But I booked the cruise back then with their always included, which means you get like a classic drink package, Wi-Fi, gratuities, all included. I think I booked it for like $1,900. And then by the time I did the Move Up and that was all accepted, I think I paid like just south of $4,000 total. And that's like all the perks, Aqua Sky Suite, everything. So I think that was like the deal of the century that I got there. So I was really happy about that. But I really enjoyed my room. If you ever get an opportunity to sail in a Sky Suite on board an Edge series ship, I highly recommend that you do so. So when we put all those things together and consider everything collectively, I'm going to give the S for ship a 3.8 out of a 5 rating. Next up is the T for taste. We're going to talk about the food. And like I said, I was in the retreat, so most of my food that I'm going to talk about is based upon experiences that I had in Luminae. I love Luminae. This was my second cruise in the retreat, so my second time having full total access all cruise long to Luminae. Luminae is open for breakfast and dinner every day, but if it's a port day or embarkation day, Luminae is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And yes, I did hit that jackpot some days and go 3 times a day, because that's how good the food in Luminae can be. And also, it feels like a very pampered experience too. Like, you kind of feel like, well, I paid for this, right? I paid to be in the retreat, so I should take advantage and eat at Luminae as much as I can. Now, I will say about Luminae that the menus in there could use some updating. And sort of related to that is the selections at Luminae, specifically for dinner, because if you go for breakfast, they have the same offerings for breakfast every single day of your cruise. Even on an 11-day cruise, the selections are all the same. I mean, how varied can you really get with breakfast offerings, I guess. Lunch will be a little bit different each of the days that they have lunch, but there are a lot of the repeated options every day that they have. But dinner, you sort of start out strong. You have Chic Night, which is where things sort of peak. And then you get there in the middle of the cruise, and I don't know, I just felt like that the options are kind of bland and boring. So I wish that Luminae would revamp their menus a little bit. I wish they would have updated options, more variety in their options, and just more excitement in their menus there in the middle of the cruise. I also wish that they would have more fresh vegetables in Luminae. Now look, I get it, we're on a cruise ship. Every single vegetable that you're going to eat can't be fresh. Some things have to be stored in the freezer, some things have to be from frozen, or it would spoil or rotten throughout the cruise. Maybe that's what we were smelling up on the main pool deck. Some of the vegetables were going bad. But I did notice in Luminae, some of the vegetables would be kind of waxy. You could kind of tell they were maybe from frozen. And I'm not being too picky. I'm just making an observation. Folks pay a lot of money to be in the retreat, a lot of money to eat at Luminae. And I was just like, man, you would think the vegetables would taste a little bit more fresh than this. Like, these are like these broccoli florets that I'm having tonight tastes a lot like the Green Giant florets that I eat from frozen at home. Another thing about dining in the retreat specifically, up on the retreat sun deck, they do have food available, and this food is available during the lunchtime. I think it ends at 2:30. That they have like a chicken sandwich, and y'all, that chicken sandwich is so good. It's like on a croissant. Comes with fries. They have the Luminae burger, which is big in the retreat, and Luminae. They have a lot of different offerings. So I ate lunch there a couple of times throughout the cruise and really enjoyed it. It's nice just to sit outside, feel the breeze because you're there on the front of the ship, and have a lunch at the retreat sun deck. So don't miss that if you're staying in the retreat. Do know that you can go out and eat at the retreat sun deck. They have a menu out there, just a few options, but it's really good stuff. Now, one thing that's kind of disappointing, I will say, since I did say Luminae burger, I did try that sucker a couple of times, and it's just okay. A lot of folks really rave about that Luminae burger, but it was just too dry for me. It's not the best burger on the ship. The best burger on the ship is still the burger at Le Grand Bistro. If you've ever been there before, I didn't go there this cruise, so I don't have any clips or anything to show you. But Le Grand Bistro has a burger in there. It's much better than the Luminae burger. But they kept advertising in the menu in Luminae that there were going to be truffle fries with the Luminae burger. And then they would give us these like, you know, Mass Grill looking fries. The same fries, because I did eat at Mass Grill one day. The very same fries that they're having down at the Mass Grill, even though it said truffle fries on the menu. And this was both in Luminae and on the retreat sun deck. Both times I had the Luminae burger, I had these, what I was calling like Lido fries. So I feel like that could be improved also. Again, folks are paying the extra, celebrities should give the extra. The buffet was amazing, and I know there's been a lot of talk in the past year about the buffet on Celebrity Cruises, and a lot of folks say that there's not a lot of variety anymore. A lot of folks just are disappointed in the quality of the food, but I didn't experience that at all. There was always a great variety of food at the buffet. I went at breakfast, I went at lunch, I went at dinner some days. In fact, I got caught up in that buffet a couple of days. There was a couple of days when I was going to be going to, a couple of evenings I should say, I was going to be going to Luminae for dinner, and I would be like, you know what, for the channel, for content, I need to go in there and get some clips of the food, what they're having tonight at the buffet. And then I would be like, well, that looks good. And I would end up making myself a plate and eating at the buffet, and it would be great. And I would not at all be upset or mad that I had missed a meal in Luminae, because that's how great the buffet was. The food was amazing. The food was always hot. I can't think of anything that I got that was like cold or tasted like it had been sitting there a long time. So kudos to Celebrity, or the Celebrity Edge crew, because they did a great job of making the buffet exceptional on this cruise. Another thing exceptional was the room service. I got room service a couple different times, and the room service was always quick. They would tell me 30 minutes sometimes, and it would be there in like 15, you know, so very quick service from room service. Now, do know if you're not staying in a suite or staying in the retreat, you will have to pay a service charge. The service charge is $9.95 plus, I think, like 20% now, gratuity. You will have to pay that each time you order room service, unless you're ordering the continental breakfast offerings that are served early in the morning, which is like cold cereals and things like that. You will have to pay a service charge, so just keep that in mind. But every time I order room service, it was great. I love the grilled salmon that they have on the room service menu. It's so good. Love the shrimp cocktail that they have. And of course, a Caesar salad, because if you know me well, you know that I like the Caesar salads. So took advantage of that several times throughout the cruise. Also got breakfast a time or two, because it's just nice to get your breakfast delivered and have coffee sitting out there on the balcony. So really enjoyed room service. Another exceptional thing was Cafe Al Bacio. Cafe Al Bacio is always knocking it out of the park on any Celebrity cruise I've been on, and this time was no exception, because I was able to go in there and get delicious pastries. All those pastries are included in the cruise fare. I had a tres leches one day that was good. It was so good, I went back and had another piece. I had the cookies. Some people were asking about the cookies, the macadamia nut cookies. I did have one or two of those from Cafe Al Bacio, and always really good service in there. And of course, the coffee is always delicious. And then one more thing I did want to mention about food was the retreat lounge. They do have some food offerings in the retreat lounge. They have like an afternoon tea where they have scones and little like light refreshments. They have evening bites like an hour after that that like lead you up to dinner. One complaint I did have about the options in the retreat lounge though, not a lot of variety to those. It sort of seems like things are very repetitive. Like each day is the exact same thing. Like you go in for afternoon tea, it's going to be the same thing tomorrow. You go in for evening bites, it's going to be the same thing tomorrow. And on an 11-day cruise, that kind of got old. It kind of got stale. So I just wish there would be a little bit more variety in that. But when we consider all those things together, I'm going to give the T for taste and food onboard Celebrity Edge a very solid 4 out of 5 rating. Next up is the E for entertainment, and there was a lot of entertainment to be enjoyed on board this cruise on Celebrity Edge. It's always intriguing to me on a long cruise like this, 11 nights, you got to keep folks entertained. But yet Celebrity always does it. They had a mixture of entertainment around the ship, but particularly in the main theater each night, they always had something in there, be it a stage production show, be it a guest performer like a musician or a magician. They always had something going on in there. And in fact, they had 4 stage production shows throughout this cruise. I was able to make it to a couple of those and really enjoyed them. They're always very good. I love the theater that they have on these Edge series ships. It's sort of in the round. People can sit kind of around the stage, you know. Really cool theater, really great place, and they've utilized that space just perfectly in some of the production shows that they have. So really good shows. Was very entertained by the entertainment staff on board Celebrity Edge. And on some of the days of the cruise, they actually had Beyond the Podium series, which I always love. I love like learning about the history and the culture and the geography and things like that. And that's what the Beyond the Podium series is. Celebrity offers these. I think maybe they do them on all their ships. I'm not sure, or on all their cruises. But I know on some of the longer ones I've been on a 12-night cruise on Apex in Israel before. They did them there to talk about the history and geography of the region. But on this cruise, they were doing the Beyond the Podium to talk about like some of the history of like pirates and stuff there in Australia, but a lot of stuff about the Great Barrier Reef, the wildlife in Australia, the marine life there on the reef. So very cool. I'm very glad to see that they offer those, because that just adds, it enriches your vacation when they have educational moments. You know, they're actually teaching you something and you're taking more away from your vacation than just, oh, cool, we went to the beach, or, you know, we did go out to the reef. No, you're learning about it. You're processing a lot of information and really coming back better with a better understanding of the places that you visited. I really enjoy that. In addition to having shows in the main theater, they also utilize the club. The club is utilized every night, not just for like Oons Club, but also for like shows and performances in there. They had musicians in there some nights. They had like special shows, with like the production crew were having shows in there some evenings. The magician did a show in there one night. So just a lot of entertainment to be found in there. They also had live music, of course, every night in the main atrium, and not just the night. There would be some days I'd get back on the ship from being on port in the afternoon that have live music in the atrium. The martini bar's right there. So a lot of folks dancing and enjoying the lively environment. And also back in Eden, they would have live music every night. I sat back in Eden at least 2 or 3 nights of the cruise. They have those very cool chairs that kind of just suspended. They're kind of like swings. They're just suspended from the roof and they just swing back and forth. I spent many nights back there just hanging out, listening to music, and just enjoying Eden, the environment and the ambiance of Eden. But one thing I will say about Eden is that there were no special production shows in Eden. And I say that because I know that on Ascent and Beyond, they actually have production shows back there in Eden, but they had none of those in Edge. There were no performances. It was just live music. Another thing I wanted to say about performances in Eden, a lot of folks asked me about this. A lot of folks who dined at Eden, and they said they didn't do the show in Eden. Like, the performers didn't come around to the table. And I think that's a misunderstanding, and that's something that Celebrity really promoted when the Edge came out. I think when it first debuted, they did do like shows and performances and had like performers in the restaurant itself. But I don't think that lasted too long. But I don't think Celebrity totally like pulled that promotion off like their YouTube channel and things like that. So I think that folks still see those videos and assume that there's going to be performances take place like while they're eating in the specialty restaurant called Eden. However, that no longer takes place on any Celebrity cruise. I'm not sure why they discontinued that, but it has been discontinued. So just know that. With all those things together, all those things considered, I'm going to give E for entertainment on board Celebrity Edge a 4.0 out of a 5 rating. And next up is P for ports. And this was a bucket list trip. I mean, sailing in Australia, cruising from Sydney, Australia. One of the most iconic cities in the entire world. And y'all, I'm putting in clips right now. You're seeing it on your screen right now. That sunset sail away that we had from Sydney was like once in a lifetime. Folks were telling me how great that sail away was going to be. It was going to be beautiful. And then the sunset was just so perfect. So really enjoyed setting sail from Sydney and really enjoyed my 11 days getting to spend in Australia. And the star of the show here was the Great Barrier Reef. Most of the ports that we visited were just right off the reef, like miles off the reef. So this cruise was sort of set up for folks that wanted to visit the reef itself. So we could like be in port and they could, you know, take an excursion out to spend a day on the reef to do snorkeling or whatever. I'm not really a big snorkeling guy, and I definitely was not going to get in that water in Australia, y'all. There are so many things, did you know, that can kill you in Australia. I've talked to a lot of people on the ship about this, but like I already knew of like the cassowary bird, I knew about the crocodiles. I knew about the sharks and stuff, and some of the like weird jellyfish that they have, jellyfish-like fish that they have, that can kill you or at least seriously injure you in Australia. I wasn't gonna get in the water, okay? I didn't go to like snorkel and do the Great Barrier Reef, and I might have missed out. Folks were like, "Oh, you didn't go to the reef?" No, I didn't go. I didn't do the reef, but I wanted to see things like the jungle. I wanted to go out into the jungle. I wanted to see those crocodiles. I wanted to see the cassowary bird, and I did. However, one of the downsides of cruising in Australia, or at least at the ports that we went to, is that there's not a lot of docks available. So these were all tender ports, or most all tender ports, other than Brisbane. Brisbane was on our itinerary, and other than Brisbane, all the other ports were tender ports, which means we'd have to anchor way out off the coast, get a third party. We did not use any celebrity tenders this cruise, but a third party would come over, a third party boat would come over, and these were large boats they were using, so it would take a while to fill them up, take us over, usually had to get a bus to go somewhere else. So it was just a long process. Some days it would take an hour to an hour and a half from when you left the ship to when you actually got to where you were going over on land to your excursion or whatever. So that was the only downside. Otherwise, it was really, really cool to be in Australia. And like I said, we did leave Sydney, and after we left Sydney, we had 2 days at sea, and then we stopped at Airlie Beach. And then from Airlie Beach, we went on up the coast a little bit to Cairns for 2 days, and then we were in Port Douglas, and then we did some scenic cruising the next day around Willis Island, which is a weather station there, operated by the Australian Bureau of Meteorology. And then we had another day at sea before we were down at Brisbane, and then we had a final day at sea before we were back at Sydney. So a lot of our itinerary was spent in Queensland, the northeastern portion of Australia, and it was a beautiful, beautiful place. Got to explore a lot of the rainforest, got to go out into the Daintree rainforest, did get to see the cassowary bird, got to keep my distance, did get to go on a river cruise on the Daintree River and see some crocodiles. So really got to get out and see some wildlife, got to get out in nature, got to explore the wild side of Australia. And in Brisbane, I actually went to a koala sanctuary, got to interact with a koala, got to pet some kangaroos. So really felt like I had a great Australian experience. So for all those things considered, I'm going to give ports a 4.3 out of a 5 rating. And finally, we come to the second S, which is for service and the crew. And everything was impeccable. Like, I don't have anything negative to tell you at all. All of the crew I interacted with, and you might be saying, well, Zach, you were in the retreat. Of course, everything was great. And you're right. The retreat is sort of a step above the level of service and the quality of service that you receive there. But I'm talking about, and I spent a lot of time on other areas of the ship that wasn't the retreat, because I love every part of a celebrity headship. And every crew member that I interacted with was incredible, very courteous, very nice, very expedient in what they were doing in their work and in their service. So I can't give service anything other than a 5 out of a 5 rating. So when we consider all those scores together, that gives the Celebrity Edge a solid rating of a 4.2 out of a 5. Folks, it was an incredible cruise. It was a smelly cruise, but it was an incredible cruise on board Celebrity Edge. Again, kudos to Celebrity for sending an Ed Sheeran ship to Australia. I know the Australians were excited to see her come there, and I know Americans like myself and folks from all over the world really appreciate being able to go to Australia and sail on an Ed Sheeran ship. It was just a fantastic time. If you're sailing on the Ed Sheeran, I know she's going to be headed to Hawaii. She's going to be headed for a season in Alaska, her first in Alaska, before she heads back to Australia. You're going to have a great time, rest assured. You're going to have great food. You're going to have great service. You're going to have great entertainment. It's just going to be a great experience overall. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it and found it helpful. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next adventure.